after today, don't hesitate to get back in touch with us. If we can assist, we certainly will. We've got, I had an email this morning from another sport that's not involved in these, but wanted just some data to boost up some of their submissions. So if you're going through your submissions and you think, gee, I wonder if there is data on number of women on boards, around state associations, or whatever it may be, we have got some data or access to, and we might be able to point you in the right direction. So if there are things that you think will help your submissions along the way, please contact us if we've got the answers to give them, if we can point you in the right direction. So that said, yeah, hope you get something out of this, and good luck with your submissions. Right, thanks, Gary.
Thank you. Now, I'm not sure if anyone's been to Sports House before. If you haven't, the toilets are just out this corridor here through the vending machine, past vending machines on the left. So they're just around the corner. So through the corridor, past the vending machine on the left is the toilets. Please help yourself to tea, coffee, water. Try and make this as a interactive session, so you know, you can get around and chat to people and the rest of it. What I might do initially, before we sort of get into it, is perhaps just get everyone sort of around the room just introduce themselves and perhaps the organisation they're from, to get an idea of the different groups that we have here today. Perhaps Steve and Tom.
Sure, good morning everyone. I'm Steve Blunt. I'm a board director for Waterpolo Victoria and president of Victoria's only club in the national competition.
My name is Tom Madden. I'm a sport development officer for Waterpolo Victoria. So you're in Simon's absence, he's on leave this week. So I'm filling in that role for us.
Good. Hi guys, my name's Ralph. I'm the chair of the Victorian Version
Kyle, I'm the administrator for League Victoria.
Rosie President Victoria.
Adam from Surfing Victoria. Matt from Diving Victoria.
Fiona Young, Sports Radical Victoria.
Ashley Ware from Baseball Victoria.
And Amber Costa from Netball.
Right, excellent. Right, good. Thank you for that. Now, in relation to the session today, we're a relatively small group, so quite happy for this to be a chat. Please, if any questions you have as we go, just to call out and just try and work through things as they come up, assisting from sort of waiting questions at the end. We've got a video, we're videoing the session today, whether that's a good thing or a bad, but we've got quite a few associations that can't make it that are interested in the type of information we're presenting, and a couple of the regional sports centres as well. So we'll be doing some editing on that. So please, if you feel like there's things that you want to say that might be sort of controversial or like you prefer not to have aired, then we're going to sort of go back afterwards and sort of tidy that up and make sure there's nothing in there that you would otherwise want to be made public. So if anyone's got issues with the video, please let us know. Particularly feedback, me talking and information we're going to present through the PowerPoint today. Look, as Mark said, this is a 3-year funding program supporting Victorian sport recreation. I think it's a great initiative having 3 years, but I think what that does do and then perhaps look whether there's any changes in the wording just to try and bring that plan up to speed and so it's consistent all the way through. So that's another activity that we're going to do a bit later. And then also what are the issues? So if we are going to change plans or develop plans, what are the things that sports need to think about when we're doing that in relation to presenting a draft plan, getting approved by the board, presenting a draft plan for SRV on the 14th of December, those types of things. So that's what I'm sort of
a competition management system or a decent database